Hey guys, I'm back. Did you miss me? Hey guys, so I know I've been gone for like a month. Ideally I wanted to release some videos every week / every 2 weeks, but things got a bit busy. However, I'm back. So now that I'm back, let's jump straight back into part 2 of episode 4, where we build the Stroop Effect application but for iOS instead. To run through quickly, this is Xcode, which is an IDE used to build applications. This is an example of a storyboard, and within this storyboard you have a collection of scenes, and within these scenes you have view controllers. These view controllers can contain objects such as labels, buttons, image views and so forth. And today we're going to create our own storyboard in which we create the main game screen as well as the game over dialogue screen. So without further ado, let's go. First thing I want to do is put my coding boy jumper. Now that it's on, let's get ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do, open Xcode, create a new project, app, which is the default. Next, let's call it Stroop Effect iOS. Everything looks good. Let's go. Let's create it inside here. So this, everything looks fine so far. Okay. So we're just going to go straight to the storyboard. Boom. So as I explained before, the storyboard allows you to design your app and see how it looks before you actually build it to a device. So you can add your views, attach code to your views and manipulate the data, etc. So we're going to do that now. So iOS has something called a stack view, which allows you to manage a collection of views. But because we want to make it as simple as possible, we're just going to probably create an image view and color that instead. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to press this and get an image view. Give it a size of, let's say, 100 by 100. So that's nice. That looks good. And because we want these to be different colors, I'm going to first add a color asset. So I'm going to come down here, color set, universal, perfect. And I'm going to go off now and get all the colors that we used in the Android app, so bear with me. So now that I have the colors set up, we can now use them in our storyboard. So I'm just going to show you how to do one of these and then I'll just speed up the rest. So that's image view. Let's give it a background, sorry. Perfect. Red. Okay, let's see, we just run this to see what it would look like. So that's iPhone 11 Pro. So while this is building, Guys, since the first video the coffee's been missing, but now it's made a reappearance. I just restocked. So we got Guatemala, vanilla, amaretto, latte macchiato, caramel, cappuccino, and this new one that I'm going to try, cortado. So let's make some coffee and let's jump back straight to it. So this is what the red square looks like. We're going to add the rest of the squares. I'm thinking rather than an image view, I might make it a button just to make it a lot more simpler. So let's change it from a image view to an actual button. So I'm just gonna come up here again. And let's run it and it should look the same, to be honest. Perfect. So now I'm going to add the rest of the buttons. So these buttons look a bit off center. I should probably use constraints for these, but I'm just making it as simple as possible. Let's see how it looks. Nice. It does look quite centered, but ideally you should use constraints so it's always where you expect it to be on all devices. So now we need to add the color name label and the score as well. So we centered it in the container. So now we need to add the score label. Okay. So add the constraints for this one. There we go. Sorry, look when it runs. Beautiful. So now we've created the first screen. Let's move on to the next one now. But first, let's just name this main screen. View controller. So let's add another view controller. Drop it there right now. Put it next to it. So on this view controller, all we need is a label. I'll put a button underneath. We'll just leave it like this, just so it's simple. And we'll call this view controller dialog. View controller. So now that we've created our two views, we're going to move on to the next step, which is adding the code. And to add our code, we're going to basically rewrite our Android code into iOS code, so turn our Java into Swift. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a class for this view controller. It already has one actually. But yeah, we used one it already has. View controller is called. So in the Android code, the first thing we do is set views and listeners. So let's do that in the iOS code as well. Now for iOS, it's slightly a bit different. The way you set things up, let me duplicate the screen. There we go, storyboard. You drag and drop. So red button, I right click, press Control, and I drag into here. And then I just call it red button. Perfect. So on here we're going to write buttons. And I'll do the same for the rest. Now that I've added all the references for the buttons, let's do the same for the labels. So now that I've added all the references for the buttons and the labels, let's add the on-click listener. So what happens when we actually click the buttons? So I think the best thing to do is to write a generic one. So color button clicked, and we're going to do exactly what we did for the Android. So I think we got the color of the button first. Let's double check. So for the Android version, we get the color of the button and the color of the text view, and check whether they're equal. So let's do the same for Swift. So I'm gonna write let button color equal, and ideally want to send a button inside here. UI button. The way I've written this function may change, but for now I'll just write it like this and then adapt it later. So it's going to say button dot background color. So that should store it inside there. If button color is equal to color label dot text color. So score plus set the label. So score label dot text is equal to, and let's actually create this variable now. So var score type int. Oops, make it equal to 0. Missing this. Let's just do plus equals 1. Isn't like that. Go. I'm going to call get random color. This function isn't finished yet, but we're just going to add get random color and then come back to it. So before we move on with filling out the get random color method, it's best that we add the array lists, so to speak, of color names and colors. So color names, and it's going to be a array strings and var colors, and it's going to be array of UI colors. We're going to write a method called populate lists. Let's take this and let's take it on. paste it there. Append. And let's change this to append instead. Color values, let's change this to color values. And instead inside here we're going to do name color red, that's called. Be append. Let's do the same for the others. Here we're gonna populate this or get random color. So now let's move on to our get random color method. Again, let's just copy it from the Android version. So there's no collections class in Swift, so we can just say color names.shuffle. I believe it's called. Perfect. And the same for color values. Now we need to get a random color using the random variable. So we're going to write var, let, because it's not going to change. Random color equals int dot random. Oops. In a range of 0 to color values dot count. This will be let color chosen random color. And we say color label dot text. And we do the same for the text now. There we go. That seems okay. So I need to say that is equal to that. So what I'm actually doing is creating an empty collection of strings. Well, an empty array of strings and an empty array of UI colors as well. Now error should go away. Perfect. Let's run it. It should work, barring the dialog stuff. Hey, nice. Let's one more time. Well, go insert the button click listener equivalent. Let's run it one more time. Perfect. Let's add the button click listener now. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add a collection of buttons. Just to make it easy to add the listener. Now that I've done that, I'm going to get rid of all these semicolons that I seem to have missed. That's the issue when you copy from somewhere else. But the thing with Swift is that it doesn't mind semicolons, but generally you don't need them. Check for any more that I may have missed. There we go. So now that I've done that, let's do add buttons. Buttons, append, red button. And then I can say for button in buttons, button add target, and target will be itself. The action will be our button, color button clicked, or event will be touch inside. I don't need them. Perfect. So for all the buttons, it should add this on-click listener to them. So now that adds that. Add on-click to all buttons. And now that I've done that, this. So for now, I can just write else. I'll write a message for now. Saying show game over. Now let's see if it works. So blue. So yep. Purple. Green. Purple. So far guys, it's working. So now that we've done the main screen, it's time to do the dialog screen. So I'm going to create another view controller. Okay, game dialog. So to add the code for the second screen, the game dialog, I've created a view controller. I've added a reference to the UI label, and I've also added a method that will be called whenever the button is clicked. So let's check what else we need to do. Also, all I've got to do is call reset game. So what I want to do, I want to add a delegate really. So I'm going to add a delegate, I'm going to call it delegate.restart game. And dismiss. There we go. Yeah. That's throwing an error message because we need to actually add the method. But in here we need to actually set the score label. So I'm going to say score dialog.text. Called get score. So we need to add these methods. I made a method called get score. Oh, in fact, we don't really need to do that. I'm sure we can access it. Let's double check. Restart game should work now. Yeah. And this score label, there we go, text. There we go. Don't need this. So now out's game over. So I made a few changes. What I did is that I gave our view controller a storyboard ID. So instead of how it was before, I'm instantiating the view controller using this method in which I pass in the storyboard name as well as the identifier that I gave the view controller, and then I cast it to a game dialog view controller instead. Then I said I also wanted to present it using the form sheet style. So now when we run it, there we go. So let's play it a bit. So orange, purple, orange, green. Let's get it wrong. So now this pops up, score 4, and we press restart. So it's restarted the game again and called get random color. So we can continue playing if we wanted to. Like so. So now that we're finished, I'm just going to quickly review the code again. So we set up our references by control dragging from the storyboard to the code, and when it's gray like this, that means that a connection exists. We do this for all our buttons and our labels, available for the scores, and we have arrays for the color names, color values, and the buttons. So we add all the color names, add all the actual colors, and then we add all the buttons to a list. For each button in the array, we add this on click, so to speak. So whenever we click the button, then this is called. So what this does, it gets the color of the button, it checks the color of the label. If they're both the same, we increase the score and then update the user, and then we call get random color again. If the user is wrong, then we instantiate the other view controller, the game over screen, so to speak, let the user know their final score and give them the option to restart the game. Get random color just shuffles color names and also shuffles the actual colors in the list. It then gets a random color, so it gets a random integer, and then we choose a random color based on that integer and set the text to be this random color that is chosen. Same thing happens for the actual color of the actual label. And then for the restart game, we reset the score to be 0, we set the score label text, and then we call get random color again. For game dialog, we set up our references and we just call the restart game method, and then we just dismiss the view controller. And when this view loads, then we get the text from the other view controller. So that is it, guys. We built the game for Android and now for iOS. The exact same game, and obviously we changed the logic from Java logic to Swift logic. Most things were the same, some things different. So if you guys like this concept where we take one idea, one application, and we build it for both Android and iOS, then let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, and until the next time, see you guys.